News. We begin with the latest on the former Las Cruces police officer facing a manslaughter charge with a firearm enhancement for shooting and killing Presley Easy in 2022. Brad Lunsford was found guilty yesterday afternoon in a Las Cruces courtroom. The jury deliberating for a little less than 3 hours before delivering that verdict. Our KTSM 9 News reporter Diana Castillo has been covering the trial since opening arguments were made last week, and she was in the courtroom as that guilty verdict was read aloud.
The trial lasted nearly 2 weeks, and after hearing from several witnesses and testimony from experts, in a little over 2 hours, jurors found Brad Lunsford guilty of voluntary manslaughter with a firearm enhancement. Silent, with hardly any reaction, Brad Lunsford stood in front of a judge and a jury of his peers as the jury verdict was read out loud.
We find the defendant, Brad Justin Lunsford, guilty of voluntary manslaughter as charged.
Lunsford found guilty of killing Presley Easy nearly 3 years ago when Lunsford was dispatched to this gas station in Las Cruces after Easy reportedly stole a beer from the store. After Easy failed to identify himself to Lunsford, Lunsford and another officer tried to arrest him. That moment shown to the jury on Wednesday during the state's closing argument.
He approached with force and demanded that he get out of the car. Is that within policy? Sure. Is that reasonable? Absolutely not.
Throughout the trial, the state has argued that Lunsford's use of deadly force was unreasonable, and that Lunsford failed to tell Easy why he was getting arrested.
Because it's a show of force at this point. He's maybe pissed you off, you're running out of your patience, and you've lost all sense of what it means to be a good cop.
Shortly after the attempted arrest, Easy and Officer Keegan Arbogast got into a physical altercation after a failed attempt by Arbogast to take Easy down. Now, during that scuffle, Easy puts his hands on Arbogast's taser just before Lunsford shoots Easy in the head. The defense maintained that Lunsford's actions were in line with the LCPD use of force policy, something they emphasized during closing arguments.
That there's an imminent threat of death or great bodily harm to you or another, then you have the right to use deadly force to stop that threat. And that's what Mr. Lunsford did.
The trial lasted 7 days, and after the guilty verdict, Lunsford was taken into custody as his loved ones looked on, raw with emotion. A sentencing date still needs to be set. Brad Lunsford is facing up to 9 years in prison. Now, as for that sentencing date, we will keep an eye out and, of course, bring you the latest details. In Las Cruces, I'm Diana Castillo, KTSM 9 News.
New Mexico's Attorney General Raul Torres sending KTSM a statement regarding the guilty verdict. It reads in part, quote, Wednesday's verdict reaffirms a principle: no one is above the law, not even those sworn to uphold it. The jury's swift decision underscores the gravity of this case and sends a clear message that excessive force will not be tolerated in New Mexico, end quote.